Just because you buy Bitcoin doesn't make you orange pill. That goes for CEOs. And just because you put Bitcoin on your balance sheet doesn't mean your company becomes successful. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I buy Bitcoin. I want to bring all different types of people together so that we can have a collective voice that's different than number go up, so that we can actually orange pill people, so they can actually free themselves. Tune out the noise, and you start to understand this is not just about capturing some gains for a cycle. This is about a paradigm shift. This is about freedom. This is about sovereignty. And the more and more I connect with these different folks of like minds, I just get more conviction around what I'm doing. And the list just kept growing and growing and growing. At one point, there were about 150 people in a thread for the Bitcoin Army. And, fast forward today, I think we're about to hit 5,300 members. It's a super organic community. We're not about number go up, although we like the number to go up, but we're more about getting more people to understand what Bitcoin is. And we want to have a different voice on Bitcoin X, and that's what it's really about.
All right, we're live. We're back. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Khalif Harold. This is the Real Hard Money Podcast, and today I have a special guest. He's one of the leaders of the Bitcoin Army, one of the fastest growing Bitcoin communities on X, from stacking sats almost every day, I think. She's all about empowering the community to hold strong and study the Bitcoin standard. Real Hard Money family, please welcome to the show, Michelle O. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually honored that folks want to talk to me and learn about my Bitcoin journey. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're making a lot of noise out there and you're doing a lot for the community. So I felt it was really good to have you on, especially as a female voice in the community. You're actually going to be my first female guest on the show in a series that I hope to keep going, Women in Bitcoin. So you're the first.
Oh, very good. Not the first time, I'm the first at something. So
Okay.
appreciate that.
Okay. Humble brag. All right, let's do it. So I remember when you started the Bitcoin Army on X earlier this year, and it was in the middle of like everybody was following each other type of craze, type of thing. Yeah, you remember that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I was one of your first members. So talk to us about what made you create the community.
Well, you're absolutely right. So it was actually a group of us. And in December, I think people were just like off for the holidays or out of school for the holidays or whatever. And everybody decided they wanted to get monetized and use their monetization money to stack more sats. That was kind of the idea. And so several of us started to connect. You were probably one of those because I remember your face coming up pretty consistently. And we just started connecting on the timeline and tagging each other to sort of build up those mentions and get more people to follow each other. So it started as a follow for follow in the Bitcoin space, and then it just continued to grow. And all of us were like minded. We were all posting about Bitcoin content, really about growing the adoption and the fundamentals around Bitcoin. And we started posting these lists. And the list just kept growing and growing and growing. At one point, there were about 150 people in a thread for the Bitcoin Army. And we had coined it the Bitcoin Army at that point, too. And so it was actually Carlin Penner that went in and set up the community as the Bitcoin Army, put in the mission statement, and got us going. And a bunch of us just really started trying to get people to joined the community, and we just took our natural connections and started to build out. So we really got going in January. And, fast forward today, I think we're about to hit 5,300 members. So it just
Yeah.
continues to attract people. It's a super organic community. Um, and we're not about number go up, although we like the number to go up. But we're more about getting more people to understand what Bitcoin is. And we want to have a different voice on Bitcoin X. And that's what it's really about.
Yeah, and it grew fast and organically, like you said. And there's there's a good vibe and a good energy there, and it's a very welcoming Bitcoin community for people that are new or old to the space. That's what I really appreciate about it. And it, you agree, right?
I agree. We have folks who have just gotten into Bitcoin, maybe 2024, 2025. We have folks who've been in Bitcoin for a very long time. I think the member who's been in Bitcoin the longest, I could think of Antonio. He wrote a book, The Bitcoin Bible. He's been Bitcoining since 2009 or 10. So
Okay.
we've got folks all across the spectrum from all areas of the world, all different backgrounds, all different life experiences, different industries just coming together. And I think because we have all of that, we just have a really big, strong voice. And for me, before I became a member of the Army and really started connecting with these people, I I understood Bitcoin, but not to the level I do now. And so they helped to educate me even further, like beyond what I was learning from books and different writers on Bitcoin Standard and that sort of thing. So they helped me understand Bitcoin at a bigger and more fundamental level. And so I've stacked harder in the last 4 or 5 months than I've ever stacked before. um, I think a lot of other people have too, because you start to tune out the noise and you start to understand this is not just about capturing some gains for a cycle. This is
Yes.
about a paradigm shift. This is about freedom. This is about sovereignty. And the more and more I connect with these different folks of like minds, I just get more conviction around what I'm doing. So I'm going hard in the paint.
Me too. And so I noticed that you are class of 2017, just like me. And the run up, the incredible mania in 2017, and the two brutal bear markets, FTX, Celsius, China FUD. Many of us didn't make it. Do you have PTSD?
I think it was, I think when it was all happening, it was devastating
Hmm.
because I didn't understand. One, I didn't understand investing. I really didn't know what I had. I just knew it went
Right.
up really fast from when I bought it because I bought it in March of 2017.
Of
Um,
the same. Yeah.
yeah, and like I didn't even look at it for like months, and then about September, it had done like a 6 or 7x. And I just thought like I had struck gold and this thing is going up forever. And then you start getting on the YouTube and you're hearing price predictions and folks are like
Hmm.
predicting outrageous things, the John McAfee's, all that. Then I got, really interested on Twitter and I understood, if you want real updates or the actual news or what's going on with Bitcoin, you would go to Twitter. So I was hyped up, got all my friends and family, called everybody. And most of my people bought Bitcoin with me. Um, but then the crash
Then it
happened.
crashed. And it's all your fault, Michelle.
It's all my fault. Like folks calling Michelle, I'm like, sell it. Just give it to me. Sell it to me for what you bought it for, like whatever. And most of them were still in profits, but it's scary to watch the capitulation, the way it happened. I remember looking at Coinbase at like price action, and I would see the number go down like a gasoline meter.
Right.
And all of these weird glitches. Like I saw Bitcoin go from 15,000 to 9,000 in 2 minutes and then back up to
Really?
11. Yes. So I was watching all of that. What it taught me though was to understand what I was holding. So I
Yeah,
just,
but you didn't know at that time still, right? Because it was just such a mania. Like people don't understand it. If you weren't there and you didn't have it and hold it, you don't understand that wild ride because retail is not here now.
yeah,
Not even close to how it was in 2017.
it was so crazy. Like when I say mania, and you remember, it was just wild. And then I've gotten into altcoins too, and the altcoins.
Okay.
I mean, I think I got like two coins where I had like maybe a 40 or 50x. So again, you think you can't lose. You're like you're in the casino and you think you can't lose. So anyway, it taught me a lot of lessons, but it taught me to study like what is Bitcoin. And when I first bought it, what did attract me to it and what I got immediately was the decentralization aspect and the fact that there's no intermediary involved. Like that resonated because maybe several months prior, my bank account got frozen and I was pissed. I was
Yeah.
devastated, upset, mad at everybody, not understanding how somebody else's actions could affect my account being frozen. Like, how could all this happen? So it made no sense to me. So when I heard about Bitcoin, that part, I was like, okay, I can see this becoming something. I hope it becomes something. So I bought it,
Right.
but it was not really about number go up. That's what it,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It starts like that. It's the sexiest thing in the room, but to me, the price is the least interesting part about Bitcoin,
Yeah.
right?
You have
And
journey to understand that and
yeah,
to the realization that the price doesn't matter. And in my journey with Bitcoin, like when I started, I wasn't financially where I am now, like nowhere near. I would have considered myself somewhat paycheck to paycheck. You know, and I would get a lot of relief when I got my big bonus for the year. But otherwise, it was pretty tight. Like one thing goes wrong, and you know you're struggling. And so, what it taught me was to understand what money is. So once I started to lose, and I was worried about like what am I invested in, but I never sold for some reason. What am I invested in? And, you know, should I continue to hold? First of all, I didn't even probably know how to sell, but
really?
I didn't even
No?
know how to sell. I just bought and I just watched it, but I don't even think I knew how
Ladies
to
and
sell.
gentlemen, a real hodler. She doesn't even know how to sell. You hear me? Okay.
I mean, now I do, but back then I didn't. I've never sold any Bitcoin though, but sold many of altcoins. But
Hallelujah.
you know, and in full transparency, I'm still holding on to a few that keep me up at night every day because I know I need to get rid of them. Talk about that
That
later.
was one of my next questions. I, having Bitcoin because I'm a former shitcoiner as well, right? And having Bitcoin, talk to the people about just focusing on Bitcoin instead of focusing on a bag of altcoins that you don't really have conviction in, you don't believe in, you don't even really know the company behind it. When you know all of that stress, managing that compared to just being laser eye focused on Bitcoin.
Yeah, like all of those altcoins, they claim to have utility. They claim to be doing something that can solve a problem in the world or change the world in some way. As you look behind the curtain and you have enough experience with these things, you discover that maybe some of them could have some sort of impact in the world or solve some sort of problem, but they don't need a token. So the token is really about enriching the person who created that token. And we use these cycles to create liquidity, pump up the price, and then it all goes back into Bitcoin anyway. or in, some founders' pockets. I've seen
Right.
enough blog polls. I've seen enough of, if you look at the cryptocurrency rate rankings over the years and through the cycles, today looks nothing like it did last cycle. Last cycle looks nothing like it did the cycle before that, and the story continues. And it's because these things they really are not going to last, because what are they? And when you keep peeling that onion, they're not money.
Hmm.
Bitcoin is money. They're uh, most of the coins are like pre-mined, and so there's a group outside of the general population that's holding that's controlling the altcoin. So anyway, you're taking a gamble. You might see some gains. The number might go up, but at the end of the day, think about what is Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to continue to suck up the world's assets because it is really a paradigm shift. It's a financial revolution. Uh, Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto was able to do something that no one has ever been able to do before.
Hmm.
Create a digital currency, solve the double spend problem. It's unhackable. It's absolutely perfect money. So if you hold it long enough, it's going to set you free from the financial tyranny that we experience today that you don't even know you're experiencing. We tend to, the politicians want you to blame it on the billionaires. They ain't paying their taxes. So you keep getting poorer. That's not it. The money is broken. And so once you understand that the money is broken and there is a way to free yourself from that, well, that's all you can think about. So for me, all I can think about is how can I get more of my fiat currency into real money so that I can free myself and my family. That's it.
Amen. Amen. And that's a crucial point. That's a crucial point that I think everybody can relate to. Free yourself and your family. And then, that's a big statement, but then how? And it sends you down a journey. What is money? Right.
Yeah.
And that's important because 99% of people don't know what money is. And Bitcoin sent me down that journey. I started with Mike Maloney in 2017. He has a great series. Have you ever heard of Mike Maloney?
Think so.
He's a gold bug, but he's very much into Bitcoin too. But he has a series, and you should definitely watch it. Basically, what is money? And
Yeah.
you learn so much about bread and circus and of the Roman times when they clipped the coins, and it was the form of inflation and devaluing, debasing the money. And that was
Yeah.
the first time I even heard of that. I've been through college, went through all the standard schools and stuff like that. I didn't hear anything like this about what is money. Like, you just assume that the dollar is money. It's not
Yeah.
backed by anything. And then you go down a rabbit hole, 1971 and all that, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think even people today, like most people, still think the dollar is backed by gold. I did.
yeah.
Assumed it was
You
backed.
assume this backed by something
Mhm.
strong, right? And it's just backed by nothing, right? And
Nothing.
they say, what is Bitcoin backed by?
Exactly.
Energy, effort, proof of work,
Yes, that's right.
security, never hacked, never
Mhm.
lost, right?
Right.
So it, you have a very deep understanding, and it's pretty awesome to hear. Um, but can you tell us what was your defining moment in your personal journey that turned you into such a passionate Bitcoin advocate, and how has it shaped your life beyond just investing?
That is a really good question.
Mm.
I think that at some point during my journey, I'm a person that's really about purpose. And I have to, like, even my job, my day job, I have to know that what I'm doing has some sort of meaning, not just for myself, but for other people. and I think about purpose a lot. Once I like got into Bitcoin and I knew that, I would be financially free, I stopped worrying about me and I started thinking about, and it's heavy on me, it's heavy on my heart and heavy on in my head about all the other people that are going to get passed by. They're going to get passed by because they don't even understand the basics. So even if you share what you know with them, it's going to go over their head and they're going to miss it. And so we need multiple voices. We need people from all walks of life who understand Bitcoin at a different level that can have a voice that will resonate with someone. They might not resonate with me, but they may resonate with you. You might be able to come from a financial background and talk about Bitcoin, but I may be able to come from a different voice, just being a mother and what it's been able to do for me, and how I've been able to store my energy in real value. So different voices matter. So for me, it's about all of those other people and how can I get this message out? I think about it all the time. That's why I'm so focused and so committed to the Bitcoin army because I'm not the smartest one. I don't know nothing compared to a lot of these other people. And I don't even claim to be. You'll see like a lot of my posts on X are asking questions. I'm willing to ask the dumb questions because I'm not worried about what I look like asking the questions. I don't have an ego behind it. Um, I want to bring all different types of people together so that we can have a collective voice that's different than number go up, so that we can actually orange pill people, so they can actually free themselves. So I see that as my role, and that is really what has changed me. It's just I'm thinking about humanity differently and what I can do to have an impact and to create some sort of meaning for myself and for other people.
I love that answer. That's a great answer because, what other asset has people so passionate about it? It changes people's life. It changes how you view your outlook, your time horizon. You get into the gym or you start eating better and it changes your perspective. Bitcoin's ethos is about sovereignty and long term thinking. How do you balance the emotional highs and lows of Bitcoin volatility in your personal life? And what keeps you grounded in your conviction to keep stacking sats?
Oh, that's a loaded question. But first, I'll say, how do I manage the highs and lows, the volatility, and keep, my sanity doing it? Is I buy every single day. I buy every single day. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I buy Bitcoin. And I've done this since the end of 2021. Um, if I were to say I had one regret, it was not dollar cost averaging in the 2020 cycle. And, at the end, like when
The
Bitcoin crashed.
bear market, 2018. Oh, such a good time to stack.
What exactly? When everything came back again, and I started studying what is Bitcoin, listening to different types of podcasts, reading books, and I started to understand what it is. Then I started to get real FOMO, and and my biggest regret was not dollar cost averaging. So I just set a commitment, and I said I'm gonna buy every single day. I don't care if it's $10. I don't care if it's $50. Like I'm buying every single day, and I've done that since 2021. The other thing that I committed to was eliminating my debt, my consumer debt.
Yeah.
So I'm able to use a very large portion of my salary. Like I don't need to generate income from anything else. So I'm able to use a large percentage of my salary because I've eliminated consumer debt. And as my income raised, I didn't gain more consumer debt.
Hmm.
And it has allowed me to take out loans and leverage so that I can buy more Bitcoin. And I'm totally willing to do that because I can service the debt.
Right.
And again, I'm buying every day. So the price does not matter. I'm always up. The price doesn't
Right.
matter. It'd have to really sink.
Hmm. I mean, you seem like you've come to the proper conclusion that one BTC equals one BTC, right? And stop valuing this in a trash fiat system that's systematically programmed to make us lose.
That's right. Again, and again, I'm not trying to take big profits on Bitcoin at the end of this cycle. So it doesn't matter to me what the price is today, tomorrow, a year from now. So, like all that conversation is noise to me. I just want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible because when you look at all of the Bitcoin Treasury companies, um, nation states, et cetera, they're sucking up the Bitcoin and retail is handed it over to them.
Right.
Again, that's my big worry. At regular everyday people, we've got to be stacking down. We've got to be loading up. I don't care if the price goes back to 15,000. I'd be selling everything I got. Um, my biggest concern is I don't want it to run up. So it's about stacking, it's about stacking, it's about stacking, and it's about helping people understand that number go up prevents you from sovereignty. You need it to go as slow as possible so that you can accumulate as much as possible. And whenever you see big pullbacks, you go in as hard as you can. Uh,
Mm.
and so, and my philosophy on it, I think one thing people don't think about too is, Bitcoin has never seen a global economic downturn. We think
What do
COVID
you
was,
mean?
we think COVID was like a big economic downturn where like we saw, recession and that, no, COVID was a gift. We've never seen, like the last time we had a big global economic downturn was 2008. And we've
The
never seen
crisis, yeah.
crisis, right? And we haven't
And
seen
it was
anything.
kind of the birth of Bitcoin.
And that, yep, and that was the birth of Bitcoin. So we haven't seen that since. So Bitcoin has not been tested in that way. So I always think about what if it does get tested, and what if we see a huge drawback? What are you going to do? You have got to be thinking about that right now because that's why I have conviction. I think about that every day, not every day, but I think about it enough to know that if that were to happen, because it could, and we don't know how Bitcoin will respond, we think it's, a store of value and that everybody would be running to Bitcoin um, uh, as a lifeboat. But that's our internal noise. We're an echo chamber. That's what we think. Does the world think that? We don't know. So you have to be prepared for anything.
Right.
And once you are prepared for that and you're willing to go as low as you could possibly go to and continue to buy Bitcoin, you're good. Nothing shakes you.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to have the conviction. You have to know what you own. And that's the part that really is the when you have the aha moment. And I think, as you know, it doesn't happen right away. Even though we caught it in 2017, some people say we were lucky, but we are bruised and scarred, and we have the badges of honor as our scars to prove our conviction. You really go through the ringer, and not for the faint-hearted, but I think as it becomes more adopted and it's a safer play, but then that's kind of like less rewards. The fortune favors the bold, right? You kind of I think most people have fear, honestly. So this leads right into my next question. Bitcoin, orange pilling family and friends. I've been trying to do this past 8 years, and it's frustrating because a lot of them jumped in 2017, like your situation, right? And then it went down, and it was like, man, leave, man. This is some BS, man. What you get me into,
Hmm.
right? And but my sister, she actually DCAs on Swan, so I'm very proud of her. Shout out to Nicole. Um, but arguing with other people, going back and forth, debating. I'm trying to share the good news that finally we have something for the people that is outside of the system. We have it first before the institutions and the governments, and and then it becomes like an argument or a debate, and like you don't know. And maybe I'm approaching it in a in the wrong way. Some people say just be cheerful and just always present it in a cheerful mood. And if they don't get it, then maybe they'll get it next time. How do you deal with it?
I think every individual has a different problem that needs to be solved. And if you think about it that way, you're more likely to help them. I also think just because somebody buys Bitcoin doesn't mean they're orange pilled. And so, um, uh, like back in 2017, a lot of folks, I even talked coworkers into buying, and then I got to look at them. Then I got to look at them when the price crashes. And at that point, I didn't know what I was holding, so I didn't even know, you know,
What to say to them?
yeah,
Looking at you like, give me my money.
exactly. To like this Ponzi scheme, and then you hear. I remember somebody at work said to me, "Why would you invest in something that went down 90%?" And I was like, "Yeah, why the hell am I investing in
Valid,
something?"
valid question.
And
Valid
again,
question.
I think most people, they either want to be right, respected, or or liked, right? I just want to be right. So when that question was asked, I was like, yeah, why did I buy this? And that forced me, it was my ego, really, that forced me to study and to understand what the heck I bought. It was the best thing that somebody could have done was really push me in that way and ask me that question. And I think about
Mhm.
it a lot. I can remember the person right now that said that to me. Um, and every once in a while, I make sure I send them screenshots of where the price of Bitcoin is now, because we were right.
The cypherpunks were right. They
We
were
were
right from the start. Satoshi was right from the start. Hal Finney was right from the start, as obscene and crazy and unbelievable as it was. They were right from the start, and it's never been proven false. It's never, all the FUD has never been proven correct. So I love that. So here's another one for you. As someone that's deeply engaged with the Bitcoin community on X, what's the most meaningful connection or lessons you've gained from interacting with the other Bitcoiners, and how has it influenced your perspectives on money and freedom?
you know, um, we do spaces in the Bitcoin Army, twice a week. We have one on Monday night and we have one on Saturday morning. I think those spaces actually teach me a lot because you're hearing all different types of people come up and speak about their Bitcoin journey or some aspect of Bitcoin that they're involved in. And I learn a lot from those spaces, I'll say. But bigger than that, you know, I I've just become like my conviction has become so strong, partly because of the relationships I have in that Bitcoin Army community. And there are about, 6 or 7 of us, maybe 8 of us, who really moderate the community and lead in our own little way. We have specific roles, but we have so much conviction around what our mission is. And it's about Bitcoin adoption. It's about uplifting small accounts. And it's about having a collective voice that's big, that grows bigger than those go up voices. And what I appreciate is we haven't broken from that. We don't always agree on everything, but we have broken from that mission, and they all keep me very strong.
And what have you learned anything? Have you learned anything from you said you learned a lot from just listening and being
So before all of this, I knew nothing about nodes. I knew nothing about mining. Now I feel like obligated to run a node and obligated to run a solo, just in terms, okay, you say you want to be sovereign. What does that mean? Well, you've got to run a node. Um, and so there's
why
that.
is that? Why is that? Why does running a node equals sovereignty?
I think because you're helping to contribute to the network. And so if you want to stay sovereign, how are you helping to contribute to the network? I think that's in a nutshell. Like when I think about nodes and when I think about mining specifically, that's how I frame up my responsibility as a Bitcoiner who wants freedom. You have to be contributing. You got to be a part of that freedom. And then
100%.
with the that also helps with the decentralization aspect of it all. So you can't sit
Exactly.
on the sidelines. I mean, you could just be on the sidelines investing and stacking and that sort of thing. But if you really believe in what you're doing, if you really have conviction and you say you're a Bitcoiner, and I also believe there's like a spectrum of the Bitcoin, conviction. So there's the Bitcoin purist who is like, may as well be a cypherpunk. Then there's then there's a maximalist, and then you get all the way down the line to where like you are mostly shit coining and you hold a little bit of Bitcoin. So and then there's all the in between. But I believe I aspire to be a purist. And if I'm going to do that, then I need to be running a node, contributing.
100%. They say to be a first class Bitcoin citizen, you should self custody and run a node.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I
So
learned
you do consider yourself a Bitcoin maxi.
100%, even though I still need to offload some other stuff. And even, I even have questions for myself. I hold a pretty good amount of MicroStrategy, and I started to
Okay.
accumulate that in late 2021 as well. And I think when I first started, of course, for me at that point too, it was still a number go up idea. Um, and I also wanted to support Michael Saylor. I really believe in what he is doing and his message, and I think that he is really going a long way to support Bitcoin adoption, not just for corporate treasuries, but also for everyday people listening to the podcasts that he does. But somewhere along the line, I'm stepping back, and again, I like to question a lot. Like, why am I holding this? And if I consider myself a maximalist, does a maximalist hold treasury company? Like, that's not Bitcoin. So I think I'm going to flip all that MicroStrategy into Bitcoin too. But of course, I'm still greedy. So I'm still waiting on a few more gains, and I'm going to slowly ladder out. But all that needs to be sitting in Bitcoin so I can save in Bitcoin.
I mean, you led it right to where I was going to go. I don't know if it's the order of my questions were good or we just flowing with the feng shui, but that was right there. So, like, I just had a recent conversation. Like, can you consider yourself a Bitcoin maxi if you're holding anything else but Bitcoin? And, people have diversification, but there's, but nobody's like, oh, I'm a real estate maxi or I'm a dollar maxi. They just want more money. You just want more real tickets, right? But to say you're a maxi, like a Max Kaiser, that's saying something. That means something in our community, right? So you see on X, it can get very toxic. It's just a fire hose of just everything, right? So people would say you have the MSTR gang with their responsibly long MSTR, and you have the Misty gang now, even further out on the risk curve, right? And they say, well, if you're a Bitcoin maxi, MSTR, that's a double maxi. And if you have MSTY, Misty, you're a triple maxi. And I'm
No.
like, because their logic is that they believe so much in Bitcoin that they went further out on the risk curve to go all the way to MSTY. But I'm saying to me and you, if you decide to move out of Bitcoin for a proxy or a paper Bitcoin, then you stepped out of the maxi conversation already. That's in my opinion. I think you might agree with that. Now, I'm not dunking on people that own that. I own MSTR too, just like yourself, because I'm smart. And Sailor is brilliant, and I believe he's a responsible custodian and steward of his company. Um, and I will reinvest back into Bitcoin. But you know, what are your thoughts on that? You said it was a spectrum.
Yeah, I think if you're like mostly Bitcoin and you hold treasury companies and mining and companies and all of that, you're like somewhere in the middle. I don't think you're a
Right,
max because a maxi um is really about you're fully on a Bitcoin standard. You are 100% of the way you move financially is on Bitcoin. Fully.
yeah,
You have completely shifted to the new paradigm. That's a max. The folks who are still investing in MicroStrategy, going down the risk curve with Misty and all of the other products that he's now selling, they're looking for fiat gains. If your mindset is on fiat gains, that is not a Bitcoin maximalist mindset. So you are now moving down the spectrum back to fiat. In
right,
my opinion, the more you move away from that, just pure focus on Bitcoin, the
right.
closer you are now. Now you're moving back to maximalist, and you're moving, and eventually you get to purist, where you're fully on the standard and everything you do and
Yeah,
how you support the network. Like that's where I want to be.
that's where I want to be too. I want to move all my energy into Bitcoin. That's why you have the community. That's why I have the podcast. Shout out to Stacy running a podcast in the Bitcoin Army community. You got to link us up. I got to have her on my show
I'm sure you
sometime.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. But that's the thing with paper Bitcoin, as I say. I love Seller. I think he's brilliant. I think the financialization engineering that he's doing, financial engineering he's doing, is brilliant. I think it's already proven to increase adoption. This is just how it's going to be because people come for the greed and stay for the revolution. Once you step outside of Bitcoin, you lose all the tenets and properties of Bitcoin: the decentralization, the unconfiscability, the permissionless, the open, all of the things that make Bitcoin Bitcoin. You lose that. So what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? It's either Bitcoin or it's not. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. There's no counterfeit Bitcoin. There's no paper Bitcoin. It's either
Okay.
Bitcoin or it ain't,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, we're in 100% agreement, but we still got our MSTR stash.
Be Grady.
I'll at your boy.
And we got dumb. But I do like I don't fault people even who, there's traders out there. They make a little fun. whatever. However you want to generate income that eventually flows back into Bitcoin is all right with me. But again, like you really got to step back and say, if I'm a maxi, what does that mean? So I think we just overuse that word
Yeah,
maxi very loosely.
yeah. And I think, to each his own, right? Whatever floats your boat, everybody's not at the same position in life and has circumstances. You might be a billionaire, you don't really care. You're rich off the current system, but most people, 99.999%, are not billionaires, So, like, we're not, Bitcoin is here for everybody.
Right.
Um, with all these leverage companies, right? And Metaplanet, I'm excited about Metaplanet actually myself. I don't have any yet, but I mean their trajectory. The young guy Dylan Leclerc, he's on point. Simon, they're on point. They have the game plan mapped out. They're at about 11,000 Bitcoin now, and they're looking to get about 250,000 in the next 2 years. I think they're going to do it faster than that. It's going to run up. It's going to be like an altcoin. It's going to be a super pump. You think it's going to be like a mania, though? You see all these other companies coming in, Nakamoto, 21 Capital, Smarter Web Company, Metaplanet, similar. Do you think, it's starting to get a little frothy? So, do you see it ending bad like FTX? There's some naysayers and stuff out there, like always FUD, right?
It's I don't like to predict it because I don't care. Um, like again,
But
I
you
don't
hold mostly Bitcoin, right?
because I hold mostly Bitcoin and because like I'm not here for a cycle. I'm here for a long term and I don't need my Bitcoin right now, if that makes sense. So I don't think a lot about what the like what could potentially happen and if there's a potential collapse because we're sitting on a bubble with these Bitcoin treasury companies. But I do think this fundamentally. You got a lot of bozos running companies into the ground that will put Bitcoin on the balance sheet as a final Hail Mary, and they will screw it up. And those will collapse. But I think generally, most of the Bitcoin that's being bought today, or being redistributed, let's say it that way, today is being held by institutions that'll probably hold it long term and won't dump it because they don't understand it. So I don't necessarily see like an FTX style collapse, like Luna style um, thing going on, but I do worry that people think I'm holding a company with Bitcoin on their balance sheet and or go up.
Kind of like .com bubble. Just because you had pets.com, you put .com on the end of your company, you're gonna like be a billionaire. But yeah, just like you said, that's why I believe Saylor is he has the moat. He's in the lead. He's in charge because he is orange pilled. You can't tell me you don't think Michael Saylor is not orange pilled. That guy is fully orange pilled.
Yeah.
There was some concern about the proof of reserves, though.
I was out there asking those questions myself.
Me
Um,
too. I was
yeah,
on X asking the same thing, but
mhm,
in January.
yeah, 100%. So I do think he's fully orange pilled. I think that Saylor can talk Bitcoin on a level that most people can't, like with his sort of metaphoric language. And I like that he does that. It actually deepened my understanding because I like when people speak in metaphors that way. But I also like, again, I step back and I say, what is he doing? He's a salesman also, and he's selling
He's a man.
product. Yes,
He's a person,
he's a
right?
person, and
With
he's
his
got a
own conviction, with his own desires and wants. This is but and you have to trust that at the end of the day. And Bitcoin is trustless.
That's right. So again, like it just, I keep going back to what am I doing? Um,
Hmm.
I keep going back to that. Although again, like I fully support Sailor, but he's a
Okay.
salesperson. He's got a product to sell, and I want my,
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn it. I love it.
Mhm.
Damn it. I love it. All right. So tell me this, with all the Bitcoin leverage company plays coming in now, and people are, looking at the chops. I know I feel it. I can feel the DGens smelling and sniffing the gains and sniffing the 10Xs and all the DGens coming in from the toxic Bitcoin community and the toxic crypto people, right? Um,
Yeah,
is altcoin season dead?
I think most of the degens that would have been putting money into altcoins is going into Bitcoin treasury companies. I really do see that. But I do think we'll have a season because you got like the degens that are just radical degens that'll create it. And so they'll take some of those profits from
Hmm.
those and it'll there will be a season. I don't know to what extent that season will play out, but I do think there will be some it might be just one final push at the end
Hmm.
of the cycle, but I don't think it's dead.
You want it to pump so you could get rid of your last bags. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, girl. That's right.
Listen, I do want it. I want to be. I have a goal of how much Bitcoin I want at the end of this year. At really the end of this year, and so I would like to sell some of those bags so I can get to that goal. Um,
Hmm.
if I don't, oh well. Like at some point, I'll just have to make a decision. But
Right.
I would like a little altcoin so I can sell. I need
Yeah.
some liquidity.
Get rid of these bags. They're like just heavy on my consciousness. I just want to dump them so bad. When you're just
Yeah,
all Bitcoin, you're so much more zen and calm and at peace. So different. I mean, 2017 was exciting, but it was exhausting too. Like you waking up in the middle of the night, checking your phone. It's crazy.
exactly. So that's the thing too. Like when you're holding altcoins, you got to be paying attention to what's going on because at a moment's notice, a rug pull can
Don't,
happen, or like
and
some
don't.
tragic thing happens to the company and or the founders in jail or some craziness. So you got to be
Mhm.
paying attention to those altcoins. I don't have time for that. So I would like to just be able to do my DCA and with Bitcoin and not have to worry about any sort of price or following the company or whatever.
And focus on what you love and love to do and your loved ones. It just allows you to breathe and open up and do what you want to do. And the more and the higher it goes, it's like the less you care and worry about if you're gonna make it next time or you living check to check, and it just starts to fade. But it's just a beautiful thing, man. That's why I just want people to like realize this. Like, what happens to you? You can't just. It's like here in Thailand. I tell people you can't just come for 2 weeks. You gotta be here and just feel. People aren't talking about Trump and politics and all this other stuff. It's just everybody's nice, sawadi cop and sabai sabai, and everybody's smiling. And you got to feel it for a couple of months, and then you wake up and you just realize, like, damn, I haven't thought about the BS for a long time, you know.
Yeah,
And
gotta
it's the
be.
same with the altcoins. I haven't thought about the altcoins in a long time, and I'm not. Now I do have a bag, but it's like very small portion of my whole portfolio, and the Bitcoin makes up most of it. So that's a very secure place to be, in my opinion. And I
Yeah,
hope altcoin season comes so I can get rid of these bums.
same. The exact same. And the other thing I think too, for like when you're holding Bitcoin,
Hmm.
I still work a fiat job, and y- it's like sometimes you feel like you have golden handcuffs with your
Yeah.
job, especially when you get to a certain level at a job. Um, but since I would say since 2021, my whole mindset about my job now is completely different. Like I'm on some I wish a MF would. I'm on
I wish you would. Yeah.
wish you would
I
because I
wish you
have so much
would.
security now with what I'm
Yeah.
holding. If something happens, I'm good. So I wish you would.
Right. And also, it's not, and these things that used to maybe have triggered you before are not as triggering because you're not as phased, right? You're so much so secure in yourself and what you own, you know what you have. And Bitcoin is the truly, possibly the only thing we can truly own.
That's very true. Like you don't really, nothing is yours because
Yeah.
everything's taking away except for
Hmm.
Bitcoin.
Except for Bitcoin. And that's
That's crazy.
powerful.
That's
And
crazy.
you tell me that's not backed by nothing. You tell me that's not intrinsically worth something.
Yeah, people
You're
don't
out
get
of
it.
your mind.
That's right.
You're
Seriously.
out of your mind. Come on. So, uh, did you have anything you wanted to bring up and discuss in particular? You got any events?
I
Talk.
um I think a lot of the Bitcoin Army members are going to attend the conference in DC. I think it's at the end of September.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I was there. I wish I was there.
Yeah, I'd love to see us have a meetup. So we'll probably put something on X and begin to organize something so we can meet up in real life. Meeting up in real
Yeah.
life is also very powerful when you bring people together with the same mindset. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of us here on the East Coast, so I think we have an opportunity to do that. I'll put it on the timeline, but we'd love to see some folks join us in DC
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
Bitcoin conference, and I think it is sponsored by Swan.
All right. Yeah. My brother-in-law, Steve, you hear that? He's in the DMV. Get yourself to Bitcoin DC and meet up with Michelle O and all the fam from the Bitcoin Army. That's an order, soldier. Yeah. Well, Michelle, it was great having you on the show, talking with you, getting insight behind the Bitcoin Army, what you guys are up to. I'm going to be checking in. I'm always on X, poking
Oh,
my head in.
mhm.
I love what you guys are doing. Um, Tell the people where they can find you. You have a couple things. I see that you have a website as well, in addition to your community on X. Let them know.
We do. So you can find us and please join us on the Bitcoin Army community on X. You can also find me at Michelle O on my X profile. And we have a Bitcoin Army website, bitcoinarmy.com, thebitcoinarmy.com, where you can find out about all the things we're doing. There's a little bit of educational material there as well, a little bit of history on the Bitcoin Army that you can dig into. So yeah, that's basically what you can find and where you can find us.
Yeah, there you have it. And it's the army that actually spreads something good. Love bombs, orange bombs, you know. It's lighthearted, but it ain't a game.
It's a
They're gonna
peaceful.
change your life.
That's right.
It's a
It's a
peaceful
revolution.
boom. It's a peaceful
Revolution.
revolution. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll see you guys, everybody, the family, on the next Real Hard Money podcast. We're out.